Consider the exact sequence of events required to get a smartphone into your pocket. It begins with a raw piece of mineral extracted from the earth, which travels across oceans to enter a sprawling, kinetic assembly line. Transforming that single element into a finished product requires coordinating thousands of steps. A global web of resources demands millions of daily, overlapping decisions regarding shipping logistics, factory labor, and material refinement. If any one of those nodes fails, the line stops. So how does humanity actually process this massive influx of daily data without the global supply chain instantly descending into gridlock? Managing an economy is essentially a massive data processing challenge. The survival of a society depends entirely on which operating system it chooses to run to handle that data. Throughout the 20th century, two dominant competing operating systems emerged to organize human societies: capitalism and communism. Capitalism is defined by the private ownership of the means of production, things like factories, land, and resources. To figure out what to produce and when, it relies on decentralized free markets, where supply and demand dictate prices organically. Communism emerged as a direct critique of this system, heavily driven by the theories of philosopher Karl Marx. In this system, the core feature is public or state ownership. Rather than relying on profit motives, a central planning authority dictates how resources are distributed, aiming to fulfill egalitarian needs. Both systems promised a thriving society, yet their historical rivalry was ultimately decided by a mechanical difference in how they functioned under the pressure of the 20th century. Capitalism functions like a decentralized supercomputer. Every individual purchase, a single transaction for a cup of coffee or a new car, acts as a real-time data point. These signals ripple through the market, instantly telling producers exactly what people want and how much they are willing to pay for it. This profit motive also solves the knowledge problem. When sellers naturally know more about their product than buyers do, they run the risk of losing consumer trust. To protect their future profits, the market incentivizes solutions. Sellers offer warranties or build recognizable franchises, organizing chaotic data into reliable, structured hubs of trust. This constant drive to capture profit creates intensive growth. To outpace their competition, businesses are forced to constantly squeeze more efficiency and technological innovation out of the resources they already have. The financial self-interest of millions of individuals naturally organizes millions of chaotic variables into a self-correcting engine. To see what happens when that engine is removed, we look at the ultimate real-world stress test for centrally planned socialism, the Soviet Union. Here, a central government committee attempted to manually set production quotas and prices for millions of everyday goods. But no group of planners could process that data fast enough to meet reality, creating a massive information bottleneck. If the goal is simply to hit a number, quality becomes an afterthought. Factory managers were rewarded strictly for hitting state-mandated quotas. To ensure they met these targets, managers frequently lied about their factory's true capacity, prioritizing pure volume while destroying the actual utility of the products they made. The Soviet economy initially masked this flaw through extensive growth. Instead of innovating, they expanded by throwing massive amounts of brute force labor and newly extracted raw materials at their industrial problems. This chart of Soviet growth rates reveals the breaking point. Notice the gray bars representing productivity. By the 1970s, the efficiency gains from those brute force inputs vanished, and productivity growth crashed into negative numbers. Leader Mikhail Gorbachev attempted to save the economy late in the game with policies aimed at decentralizing the system, but the structural damage was too deep to stop the collapse. The Soviet breakdown was an inescapable mechanical failure, caused by attempting to centrally process the complex, shifting desires of millions of human beings. The centrally planned experiment failed because it lacked the computational capacity to replace organic, decentralized market signals. But a system driven strictly by the price signal leaves certain variables out of its calculation. Markets calculate the cost of production, but they often ignore negative externalities, costs borne by others. Without oversight, the pure profit motive leads directly to wealth inequality, worker exploitation, and environmental degradation that never appears on a factory's balance sheet. To address these blind spots, modern economies moved away from ideological extremes. They developed the mixed economy. This model uses the capitalist engine to drive innovation, but applies socialist principles, like regulations and public safety nets, to provide the data the market misses. These policies act as an additional set of inputs to ensure essential services like healthcare and education remain available even when they aren't profitable. Human coordination relies on a dual-track strategy, using the raw speed of free markets to calculate efficient production, and using public oversight to account for the social costs that profit alone cannot see.